Hey everybody, welcome back.
Welcome back to Home on the RNG.
And it's just the OG RNG for this one.
It is, yeah.
It is just Jeff and Russ.
I miss Chris.
Well, Chris apparently has an issue with fan mods, which is our topic for today.
Yeah.
I don't know what that issue is, and that's okay. You don't have to play things you don't like.
That is very true.
Although sometimes we have to play things we don't like.
We do. We played Arcana.
More recently, Quest 64.
Mm-hmm.
But as we alluded to in our Final Fantasy VI Mega Review, Russ and I also played a couple of fan mods because I was curious, honestly. I think I came up with the idea, and I was just curious. I'd heard about these fan mods. Russ played Brave New Worlds, and I played the newly translated T Edition.
What does the T stand for in T Edition?
I can't help you.
No idea. Okay.
Not a clue.
Kind of like Dragon Ball Z.
And we figured what we'd do was compare and contrast. Now, for those of you at home who don't know what these fan mods are, it is essentially fans went in and made their own version of Final Fantasy VI. They added some stuff, they removed some stuff, they retranslated some stuff, what have you. So we're going to talk about the games that we played, and you'll pick up the differences along the way. If you want to play these, it's easy to find them, and usually the website that you get them from will help teach you how to apply them.
Yeah, they're really easy to apply.
Yeah, most emulators, and you do have to play on an emulator, which we advise that you don't do if you don't own the game.
Right, but it's fine if you own the game.
Yes.
It's totally legal if you own the game.
And in which case, you should indulge in these fan mods.
And I mean, who doesn't own Final Fantasy
a copy
VI
of Final
in some
Fantasy
capacity?
Yeah. True.
You can just download it on your phone.
So, I don't know if I want to talk about mine first or listen to yours first.
Well, this is the first, I think, fan mod of anything that I've ever played, honestly.
Me too, with the exception of, like, when we did, oh, God, what was the game? With the robot, the Seventh Saga.
Oh, Seventh Saga. I was actually going to say the same thing. Yeah, I did play the,
but
original Japanese.
Well, I played one that restored the experience gain, but that's not really a fan mod as much as it is a patch.
Yeah, it's like correcting
they
mistake.
They changed one thing.
Right.
These fan mods are not, Gao's hair is different. These fan mods are essentially these people's take on what the ultimate edition of Final Fantasy VI could be, a remastered version.
Yeah.
Tell me about yours.
I mean, mine was, for the first real fan mod that I've ever played, it was interesting. I'm not going to go so far as to say it was good. The reason being, mine, the Brave New World, was kind of like Final Fantasy VI hard mode. It's not marketed, isn't the right word. It's not promoted as Final Fantasy VI hard mode, but that's what it ends up kind of being. Because the enemies, so a big difference that you notice right off the bat is the enemies are smarter and have more abilities. So enemies from the very first time you get to the world map, the Raven enemies can put you to sleep. They can do status effects and things on you that the normal enemies can't do. They also have magic is very, very different. One thing, in some ways I liked it, in some ways I didn't. I think I told you before, the muddle spell is actually useful in the Brave New World edition, the spell that confuses enemies, because it actually works. And a lot of enemies are susceptible to confusion. And it also automatically casts on all the enemies at the same time. So you have to, it is hard mode in the sense that it is more strategic.
So I will say T Edition also, they rebalanced it. There is no fight in that game that doesn't require thought and strategy.
Yeah.
You cannot just breeze through any part of any dungeon and just hit A repeatedly.
Right, exactly.
I lost to the first boss.
Yeah.
The Welk killed me because I did not know what I was in for.
Yeah.
Because, he has a super attack when you hit him when he's in his shell. He can also use that super attack just whenever he feels like it now.
Okay. I didn't lose to the Welk, but wow.
Yeah.
I could have seen that could have been a thing, and it just didn't happen to me.
Every battle required thought in it. Some of them I think was actually a little unfair. but every battle required thought.
That's where it lost me, was like with every battle having to be a strategy campaign. I'm like, I play games nowadays mostly on the easiest difficulty, literally no matter what I'm playing.
Well, yeah, we're
So
adults.
I can
We
just
have
relax.
lives.
So I don't need to learn like the attack patterns of every random little squirrel enemy that I run into. But it did have some neat things. I mean, there are things that make sense. Like Locke, for example, can only effectively steal from humanoid enemies.
Interesting.
Like, it doesn't make, like, the way they say it is, like, it doesn't make sense that you can steal, like, a potion from a rabbit. So the only enemies that Locke you can try to steal against any enemy, but it's only, like, humanoid enemies that are going to have actual things for him to steal, and then they are always more useful. You're not just stealing a potion or an
T-Edition
antidote
definitely did
or
not
whatever.
do that.
Yeah. And he automatically does damage as well every time he steals. So you're not like wasting a turn, making him steal. Mug is like the default command.
Nice.
Yeah. A thing that I really didn't like, and this is kind of why I call it hard mode, is the hit rate is abysmal.
Really?
I was missing constantly because enemies have actual evasion, which I guess they don't really have exactly in the original version. Enemies have actual defense too. So, like, there'll be heavily armored enemies that will, like, take no damage from your physical attacks. I'm trying to think other changes. Now, one of the changes that I actually did kind of like, because it makes the characters more unique, is that when you start getting espers, not every character can equip every esper, and not every character can learn every spell from every esper. So, most of the characters, aside from, like, Terra and Celise, are categorized into like a white mage or a black mage or like a support mage or a time mage.
Okay.
They're all kind of categorized like that. You also don't get all of your stats. They make a point. If you go, you're supposed to go to the, and I did go to like in Narshi at the beginning, you go to like the training hall room and learn how to play this new version of the game. And they're like, you don't do all of that stuff where you like raise all your character's speed to maxed out by using espers and stuff that we talked about in our actual Final Fantasy VI review. They just gain stats naturally, and the espers are meant to be more of just like a strategic battle thing, learning the specific types of magic that each character can learn, and then using the espers in battle. Yeah, it was interesting.
It sounds like yours didn't change as much as mine did.
No, mine definitely didn't. I watched some footage and stuff of the T edition, and it's super, super different. The one that I played is basically just taking the game as it is, but just mainly just changing the way that battles work.
So in addition to the difficulty difference, mine also, first of all, mine added a whole lot of extra boss fights and bosses, like Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a recurring villain in the World of Light, comically so. Like at one point after he fights you, it turns out like Ramu set him to come find you guys, but he didn't know it was you, so he attacked. Also, in Cayenne's dream, you know, the Dream Sisters, they actually use the characters from Final Fantasy IV, the Magus Sisters, and you actually have the Magus Sister fight.
Okay.
Every Esper has to be fought before you can have its Magicite. Every one.
Oh, wow.
And they are hard. There are some of them like Seraph. Fighting Seraph, it's easier if you have fewer party members. And they add hints that as you talk to people in the world, you'll get hints for dealing with certain Esper battles. Because some of them are just real hard if you can't figure out the strategy for them. But yeah, all the Esper battles were added. Everybody's costumes were redone, like the sprites were redone. You can unlock additional costumes that for characters that you can rotate through that emphasize certain stats over other stats.
Oh,
change their build, essentially. Tomato is the guy who retranslated the entire game.
Is that also who did Mother 3?
It is.
Okay. I didn't know if I was making that up, but...
Clyde Medallion, I think is his real name, but he goes by Tomato online. And it was good and bad, a retranslation. Like, first of all, the translation felt very natural.
Yeah.
he did a really good job. But it's certain things like when you see Shadow for the first time, there's the famous, he'd slit his mama's throat for a nickel. Well, now it's, he'd betray his best friend for the right price. And it's like,
sure. I mean,
it's less ridiculous,
right.
But slit his mama's throat for a nickel was kind of...
But they even changed that in, I think, like the GBA version or whatever.
But one of the things I think it does the most is it rebalanced a lot of the characters. Gao became my most useful character. I'm going to take a brief moment to talk about the air conditioning. Because it came up in the reviews that we were recording earlier, and it's gone on and off a couple times here. I know that professional podcasters, we should have the AC off while we're recording. We live in Texas.
We're in Texas. Yeah.
If we turn the AC off for the 40 minutes that it takes to film a review, we will be dead.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, obviously we wouldn't die. It would be miserable. And I have made a choice that even though it's not the most professional route, leaving the AC on so that Russ and Chris will continue to be willing to do the podcast is more important.
It's always odd to me when I visit places and they're like, we don't have air conditioning. And I'm like, what is the matter with you? But then I'm like, oh, the climate is normal here.
Yeah, it's not 90 degrees in September. Anyway, so Gao became one of the most useful party members because what they did is they got rid of the leap ability.
Okay.
He learns rages just by being in a winning combat against an enemy anywhere in the world. Sweet. Not just on the Videlt.
Yeah.
So just having him... So pretty early on, he learned a White Wind ability.
Oh, White Wind is good.
Yeah, White Wind heals your party as much as your current HP.
Yeah.
And Gao had... I don't know... I don't remember if it's this way in the original because I never used him in the original. He had like the second highest HP in the party. So him using White Wind was very effective.
Yeah.
He also got, area of effect attacks, Wind Slash and Dust Storm and such before Espers really came on the scene. So early on, he was also a big attacker. Then once everybody had magic, he became the party healer. He would just White Wind for boss battles and just leave him alone, and he would keep everybody full of health. He was super useful because they changed the way he learned rages. Cayenne's sword tech fills up much faster.
Oh, yeah, that's in mine, too.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, now using, like, the 8th level sword tech is feasible. Because it was... Whenever I'd play the original game, I would stop at 4. Just like, that's as much as I was willing to wait. Just use 4 every time.
The 4th level attack is good, and you don't have to wait too long for
it. I'm trying to think of all the other stuff that they changed. I did not like that they changed Umaro. He is now controllable.
Oh, okay.
Which, to me, loses some of his special flavor. Because to me, the interesting thing about him was that he was just a berserker in your party. And now he's just a guy who fights, which means I couldn't take him up the Magi Tower and use him the way I wanted to, because he would just use magic like everybody else now.
But overall fun, you would say.
I liked a lot of the changes they made, and it made it very interesting. The difficulty took a while.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure I agree with the difficulty spike, because like you, I'm trying to play these games for fun.
Exactly.
Not for the challenge.
At this point in my life, if I'm playing Final Fantasy VI, it's familiar comfort food, and I don't really want to have to learn a new system.
They added quests at all the bars, so you can talk to the innkeeper and get side quests, which is sometimes they drop you in a cave and you got to kill this boss, or take this item to this town, or whatever, for substantial rewards, usually money that will help you to buy all the new equipment. I hate the town of Zozo. They don't even change it in this. I just hate it. But even things like the tools that Edgar uses become a lot more useful. I was relying on them a lot more, because just flat out spamming attack does not get you anywhere.
See, in my version, they nerfed his tools. So his tools, are, especially in early game, are not like instant win.
Well,
like
yeah,
they later.
So they nerfed the attack's ability of like auto crossbow. But I feel like the ability or the status ones got a little goose. They goosed them up a little bit, because they were very useful. It was helpful to, turn the enemies around or poison the enemies or whatever.
Yeah, I was It was an interesting experiment, but it is not a thing that I would play again.
No, probably not. There are a handful of things that I liked. I liked adding in the Gilgamesh, and I liked adding in the Magus sisters. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I liked, for the most part, the rebalance of the characters. Again, I liked Umaro not being rebalanced. And they didn't tweak everybody. Like, Mog was not different.
Yeah.
Terra was not different. Celeste was not different. I don't know if they tweaked Locke's stats, but he didn't function differently, and he could steal from non-humanoids.
Yeah. Like in mine, it seems like I call it hard mode because I know, like with Mog, for example, Mog can only do the dance of where you currently are. So you cannot, if you want to use particular dances.
Oh no, I could use anything.
Yeah, if you're on like the plains, you can't use the forest dance or anything like that.
Well, then there's really no reason to get the water rondo.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is ridiculously hard to get. The train battle was so hard in this version because I had to try multiple times because it hit the whole party with basically Marlboro Bad Breath, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Just random status effects. And people were berserked or asleep or both. It was wild, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, Terra does not have any special abilities in the Magitech armor anymore. And I don't know why they removed those.
I had that in mind, too. They reduced the Magitech armor to just 2 abilities for everybody.
So mine went kind of halfway in between. Everybody had the same abilities, but I think it was not Terra's full complement, but it wasn't just 2.
Okay.
They kind of divided the difference
Mine was
there.
2.
It was an interesting experience to see. It was basically playing the game through somebody else's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's idea of what this game should be or could be. I don't know that we'll be playing more fan mods in the future.
Yeah, no.
It was a fun experience, but I'm thinking would I want to play a fan mod of Earthbound? Absolutely not.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I think I see where Chris's point is now.
Right.
I don't want to play somebody else's version of my game.
I've always thought of fan mods. The main experience I've had with fan mods is not playing them, but I like to watch. I guess this is kind of a shout out. I like watching Ryukar videos on YouTube. He's just a really good Super Mario Brothers player, and he plays that Kaizo Mario where people make their own levels outside of a Mario Maker.
Are you talking about I see on TikTok the insane Mario levels?
I send you his TikToks, and he'll do the crazy shell jumps and all of that stuff, and that's mostly my experience with fan mods.
Because off topic, Russ and I are heavily into watching TikToks now. We don't make any. There's no point in sharing our user ID or anything.
It is just about watching.
Maybe one day I will make TikToks when I can think of a niche that I could do well that isn't done.
While we're talking about TikTok, I just want to shout out all of the other people on Chrome Biscuit Lady TikTok. I don't know when you're going to post this episode, but if anyone remembers Chrome Biscuit Lady TikTok, just know that I was there too and that you are seen. And I have probably seen your Chrome Biscuit Lady TikTok because I've seen all of them.
I am not on the Chrome Biscuit Lady TikTok because it apparently seems to be for...
It seems to be for queer people who are mentally ill. That's what we have decided, and that definitely fits me. So.
Yeah, I'm not queer, and I'm probably not mentally ill most days. So, just a brief discussion of the 2 fan mods.
Yeah.
That difficulty rebalance, I do not understand. Yeah. I mean, I get it. The original Final Fantasy VI is perhaps a bit too easy.
You are never going to get me to say that a game is too easy. Because I think Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is a good difficulty level. So, never will I say this was too easy.
Well, thinking back now, I don't know that we've ever really graded any of the games on their difficulty.
Yeah, well, back then you couldn't pick difficulty options.
Yeah, but I know. But as we review it now, we're not it's an A+, except it's really hard, so true. It's a C. So anyway, that's all I have for the fan mods of Final Fantasy VI.
It was a fun thing to do just because, I did not need to replay Final Fantasy VI for that review.
There is one more thing I almost forgot to mention that I actually really did enjoy. They changed the staying at the inn tune at every inn.
Oh, interesting.
So, like, as you sleep at inns around the world, I found that I deliberately slept at every inn so I could see, because, like, they did the sound from each Final Fantasy game. They did the sound, the one from Chrono Trigger. Like, they put in...
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and they changed some music around so that there were some Chrono Trigger tracks in certain dungeons in certain areas. Yeah, it was just kind of a neat effect to change the music around. They also created some of their own unique monsters, but you can tell the visual style doesn't quite match. No, it's better than that, but like the visual style wasn't quite there.
Okay.
And apparently there is an add-on edition, like an expansion pack to the T edition that I did not get, which includes bosses from all of Final Fantasy history.
Wow.
That you can fight in Final Fantasy VI, but I did not get into
I know
that.
everything I've just said, but I might take a look at T Edition just to see what's going on.
There is a lot going on.
Yeah. Mine didn't have that much going on. It was literally just rebalancing the difficulty.
Yeah, running into Gilgamesh multiple times was fun. Because Gilgamesh is a fun character in Final Fantasy lore now.
Yes.
Because he became unstuck.
I mean, they just put him in that Final Fantasy Origins game. That's the DLC for Final Fantasy Origins is Gilgamesh is there now.
Because in 5, he became unstuck in time and space and now just shows up everywhere.
Unfortunately, he showed up in Final Fantasy 13 too. He probably felt real bad that day.
As did we all. I didn't play 13 too.
Well, it was better than 13, which take that however you want.
Although we will play it eventually. We'll probably be in a nursing home by the time we get to 13 too. Yeah. But I was telling my mother earlier today. She's like, "Are you going to be playing these games when you're 90?" I said, "Are you? Yeah.
Yes.
First of all,
are.
First of all, yes. We'll probably still be doing the podcast when we're 90. Second of all, retirement communities are going to be awesome when we get to that age. They're not going to have bingo night. It's going to be D&D night.
That's true.
Yeah, you just go down. All right, roll up a warrior. Let's go.
I mean, we're being pretty optimistic that we're going to make it to a nursing home, but
or that the world, society will still be here.
That's what I'm saying.
The world will still be here, whether or not we will.
Society won't necessarily still be intact, but I'm looking forward to it.
But I'm planning on doing this in my 90s.
We'll be playing a fan mod of like Final Fantasy 17 by then.
And possibly playing Persona 7.
Maybe.
By the time we're 95.
But only if you buy Persona 5 Royal again on the PS5.
And we'll still be 6 Trails games behind Japan. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. That's all we had for our fan mod discussion. We'll see you guys next time.
Play a fan mod. Goodbye.